Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being with us on our virtual Parents and Family Weekend. I'm Carla Natali. I'm Associate Vice President for University Events and Community Partnerships, and I'm pleased to be able to introduce you to today's presenters. We have Kerry Patton, who is Executive Director of Health and Wellness, and she's joined today by Shannon Goria. Shannon is a student and president of Quinnipiac's chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I am now pleased to turn it over to Kerry to start our conversation.
Good afternoon. I could officially say good afternoon or a little after 1 o'clock. So thank you for joining us today. And it's definitely not something that we typically plan to have a Zoom Parents Weekend, but we really appreciate you taking the time to connect with us. And I thought I could talk a little bit about some mental health information services that we offer. And I'm really excited that Shannon is available to join us because I think it's really important from a student perspective to hear some of the awesome things that NAMI is doing for our community, as well as any ideas. So we don't want to consume the entire time, but certainly we could leave some time at the end if anyone had any questions. And that no question is silly. I mean, we could start anything that might be helpful. So thank you all. So first and foremost, thank you so much for allowing us and trusting us to have your student here at Quinnipiac. We're thrilled to have your student here. I'm sure there are possibly most parents or guardians you might student you on this Zoom. So hello, Bobcats. We all think all of us are Bobcats, but I think, one of the, when we talk about wellness, so let me back up a little bit to sort of what my role is. So my title is Executive Director of Health and Wellness. So what that means is I work and I oversee all of our health services and our counseling, mental health services, and fitness and well-being. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I've practiced as a therapist, some in a medical hospital setting, as well as private practice. So I work with an amazing group of professionals, as well as amazing students in a community. So we're here to sort of help you try to understand some of the things that we offer and how we can certainly figure out how to move forward with some support. So mental health, I think we hear about this, often in the news, in the media. And I think it's really important to understand that mental health symptoms, even prior to COVID, are definitely very prominent for college age students. That 18 to 24 years old is definitely an age bracket that students or individuals can present with some type of mental health symptoms. And those symptoms could be things such as depression, anxiety, differences in possible thought content. So it's not necessarily a particular stressor that could be happening. It could be just more of a biological component also. So I think it's really important to know that you may not have a history, and we talk to the students about this all the time. It doesn't mean that you have had to have a history when you were in high school, but certainly just figuring out how to kind of navigate our day-to-day sort of way within our world. But of course, with COVID, that has kind of brought up a lot of different feelings, I think, for all of us. I mean, I think we all could relate that this has been a challenging time. And we have seen, and some research is shown, some studies have been shared of the increase in loneliness, increase in family stress, and increase in academic stress, especially when this all sort of presented around March time, which does sort of make sense a little bit because we sort of pivoted to this world, all of us, of, oh my, what's going on? And so to sort of be aware that those symptoms that we may be able to relate to here on a Zoom call could even relate to us personally. And that could be magnified with your student too, trying to balance being a student not being able to return to campus potentially, and not really be able to do a lot of our physical day-to-day things. And now here we are, and so grateful that we are able to come back to campus. But I think it's also just a different time for all of us to really be in tune of how we can manage our own, mental well-being. And so to talk about, and I'm not going to get into the whole wellness wheel, but it's really important to understand when we talk about wellness for all of us, is there's so many different components. There could be emotional, intellectual, physical, social, environmental, financial, and spiritual. And, there's probably other components that you all might add to that. But I think it encompasses so many different varieties. So for the services, just to touch on that, the services that we offer here at Quinnipiac, one of them are counseling services, and some from high school think of counselors as like a guidance counselor, but our counseling is mental health. So we have therapists that have licenses and have been working in the field, very experienced clinicians, as we have psychiatric providers in need of medication management. So that's something that's offered. We do not take insurance, so we don't bill for insurance, and we don't collect copays. So that's a really nice option for students, and especially when they're coming in to understand that they may not share that with their parent or not want them to have a statement come home. So that has been very helpful for them. We also have a health center that is, as you can all imagine, they're busy right now, as we all are, and managing our health needs of our students in addition to COVID issues. And so that is a service that we're all physically located on the Mount Carmel campus, as well as we have offices on the York Hill campus, and also have a counseling office on the North Haven campus. So we cover 3 campuses to be able to meet the needs of your students. In addition, prior to COVID, most of the appointments were on ground, face-to-face. And we did pivot in March to telehealth. We had lots of students that were receiving med management and counseling and other health needs, and they were weren't able to come back to campus. So we have been providing telehealth, telemedicine that I think a lot of you have been hearing about since March, and we continue to do that. And that's actually been working out really wonderful. It's been very convenient for the students. They enjoy it. They're very techy, as Shannon can say. So they really enjoy having that convenience. I think there's a lot of pros about that. But we also are available in person should they want to come in and see us too. So that's important. And I think to talk about, the other fitness and well-being services too, there are so many offerings of fitness classes and wellness workshops and lots of wonderful things to really touch on how to sort of help your student. We have a care team that is comprised of many individuals of the university to really understand if there's something that might be of a concern. So you as a parent or guardian or a professor is noticing that a student might be struggling or having a hard time academically, we're able to sort of talk about how we can manage the support of that student. So there's a certain, way that you can fill out a report, even as a parent, and we could figure out how to support that student. So I'm gonna sort of right now kind of take a little pause, and I wanted to kind of turn it over to Shannon for her to sort of explain some of the great work she's been doing, and NAMI, and then we could kind of pivot back to anything additional. So I'm going to turn my mic off so we don't echo.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Shannon. I'm a junior at Quinnipiac. I actually have a little PowerPoint that I want to share with you all. So I think I'm going to try my best to do that. Here we go. Okay. Let's see if it works. That's not it. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, let's see, slideshow, play from start, perfect. Okay, so I'm actually the president of a club here on campus called NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I'll get into a little bit more about what the club does, but I'm just gonna, a little bit about me. So like I said before, I'm a junior at Quinnipiac. I did come in as a physical therapy major, and then I started to realize I wanted to work more in the mental health field rather than the physically helping people. I've gone through my own personal experiences that made me make that switch. And I have to say, I am so pleased with the decision. All of the classes, all of the professors, the material is so interesting, and all the professors really care about kind of like even your goals and like your dreams. And I know a lot of them, the first week of class even asked like what are you specifically looking into, and I was like, I really like want to go into like sports psychology. I actually am an athlete at Quinnipiac. I run all year round. I actually do cross country and track, and honestly it's I think it gives me a great schedule. I definitely have time for it. I know like it could be like a little hesitant with students maybe saying like they're not sure if they have free time, like going to college is like that big scary factor, but I honestly think it's like it gives me a structure to my day. But yeah, so my dream is to be a sports psychologist and specialize in eating disorders, so it's all with like the mental health aspect of it. So but yeah, so I'm the president of NAMI, and as a whole, we're kind of trying to end the stigma on mental illness and promote mental health on campus. I know one of the biggest things that I love to think about, that I've talked about with my coaches, is how a lot of people are very free to talk about if they're physically not feeling well and they say like, oh, I have an injury. There's not a stigma to that, but there is a stigma if you were to go up to someone and say like, I'm feeling kind of low today, I'm feeling kind of depressed, like there's a stigma to that. And I do believe that one of my biggest reasons for joining the club is to end that stigma and to make talking about mental health and mental illnesses like more normalized in like our culture, because especially with COVID, everything is just so hard right now on the mind. And I believe that I definitely wanted to make a difference, especially this year, but hopefully going up beyond that as well. So this is kind of so this poster board, we had the first, I believe it was second week of school maybe, or the first week of school, where we had like a club fair. I really wanted to get people really involved, because I know especially for freshmen and students coming in, they were kind of at a disadvantage in terms of making friends. I know like with COVID and everything, it's like you had to stay in your dorms, but NAMI is meeting every other Tuesday at 9 p.m. over Zoom for now. We'll see how it goes with COVID and everything, but originally we did have something called Talk to Me Tuesdays, which occurred just to kind of get people to like talk and meet new people. That was like our biggest thing, and kind of like check in on how everyone was doing. So basically we kind of just wanted to build a community of people. So we had signups and stuff. And one of our first events that was actually in person was actually last week. It was actually Mental Illness Awareness Week. So this was like our week to shine. But our first event was actually this past two Tuesdays ago. We did a motivation corkboard, which was one of our club members' idea. It wasn't anyone on the e-board. We're open to all ideas. So they said they believed would be very helpful is writing down what motivates them every day or every week to push through that week and get to the weekend where they can like kind of relax. So they decided to come up with a corkboard. So you would write something down. We had, of course, with COVID, there was all these sanitary rules where make sure you had to like wipe down the marker and everything, and everyone, it was crazy, but we made it work, and I'm so happy we did. And everyone was so funny. They were just like, as you can like read some of them, they were like, oh, food gets me through, my friends, dancing, going on runs, like all of these fun things. And the corkboard kind of like allowed other people to see other people's ideas and what kept them motivated to kind of inspire them. So that was great. And I know at one point, this one girl saw running and she was like, oh, are you a runner on the track team? I was like, yes. And she was like, I just want to go somewhere different. Like, can you give me some routes? So I know like that's like even a great stress reliever for a lot of people, even to just go on a walk, or some people have their bikes up here. So that was great. And there's actually, I don't know if your children know this or anything, but there's a wonderful place to run so close to campus. It's actually, it's called Trail. And it goes on for, I think, 100 miles if they're ever feeling super adventurous. But it's actually right behind. There's a place called Fresh Greens and Proteins. It's like, I don't know, I love it. It's so good. There's really good food and smoothies there. But right behind there, there's a huge trail that we like to run on as a team. And not only that, but that, a lot of people just like to walk or run individually. It's a really, really great place. But yeah, so that was the first event. And then after that, this was on Friday, we did this thing. I know a lot of people in my town did this for COVID and for the nurses and just to spread positivity with all that was going around with COVID. But we wrote positive affirmations on rocks. So this, we had this right outside the student center. And what we did was we had plates, and each of the members of the club, we had some volunteers. We like had gloves on, and we would put paint onto someone's plate, plastic plate or whatever. They would grab a rock and they would get a Q-tip, so that you could throw away too, super safe. And they could like paint something fun or something positive on a rock and spread it anywhere around campus, so that when students are walking around, they could see like hope or like breathe or something to, you know, make their day and kind of help them get through. Because I know it's still pretty, it can be tough, but I even like when I rock around now, it's like, oh, that's so cute, like look at, oh I painted that rock. And it was actually a hit. A lot of students really liked it, so it was really great. We're hoping to do that again. So and also we try to get people into the club that way too. We're like, oh, do you want to paint a rock? You know, we're NAMI, like you should join or whatever, which was great. And then so Fresh Tech Day, actually, this was, I believe, this past Thursday. So what this was, it's more for like mental health awareness. And so NAMI as a club just had a table there. And ours was very much about being, it was called Unique. And so it was just about body positivity and what made us all unique. So we had some mirrors set up and people wrote on Post-its something that they loved about themselves or liked about themselves or made them different, and they would put it on the mirror. And honestly, a lot of people loved it. And we also had some of my favorite things. There was the little scale. And it just said like, if you're beautiful, which is, I'm a huge believer that the number does not matter. And I don't know, I loved that. And all the people who came were like, oh, can I stand on it? And I was like, go for it. And they were like, oh my God, it says I'm cute. I was like, that's awesome. But yeah, and then we also had a trash bin that said like, throw away your insecurity. So some people, if they didn't want to put anything on the mirror, or if they wanted to do both, we said write away your insecurity and then like crumple it up and throw it out. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, you're beautiful for who you are. And yeah, that was also a hit too. We had a good amount of people write some Post-its and stuff. So that was great. And then just some general information. So our meetings, like I said before, they're every other Tuesday at 9:00, because usually we don't have classes at that time. Usually people will be unwinding with homework. We thought that was just like a simple time. And we said, like, you don't have to come every week. There's no commitment. If you can make it, that's great. We'd love to see your face, but and you don't have to stay the whole time if you have to go anywhere. But it's totally like, it's just a great place to meet people. And so we are doing this. This is fairly new, where we're gonna do like the Talk to Me Tuesday and club meetings kind of combined. So what it is like in the beginning of the club meeting, we'll kind of do like a very informal check-in where it's literally just me and then the rest of my e-board, which is like 3 other girls, and we kind of just like check in and be like, hey, like, how are you doing? And so there's this thing called like a rosebud and a thorn that we do. So it's like a rose is like something good that happened to you that week. the thorn is something not so great that happened to you that week, and then the bud is something you're looking forward to. And I know for me, it's kind of like, I really like the bud. I feel like that kind of gives me some more motivation. Like, even if that's like getting coffee tomorrow morning, like if that's what I'm looking forward to, that's great. And then we also, during our meetings, are totally open to like hearing what everyone else, has in terms of ideas for events that we could do, or tabling that we could do outside the school. Because I know everything is, with COVID, more so outside now. So we're trying to get as much in as we can now while the weather's still kind of nice. But we're hoping to even have, like, in the future, like a stigma speaker. If it has to be on Zoom, that's totally cool. But I just want to get as many people involved. And we actually do have over 200 people in our club right now, which is really, really amazing. So we're really hoping to spread more awareness. And then here I just have some hopeful upcoming events that we've come up with as a club. So I know we do want to create, we did miss with COVID and everything. September was suicide prevention month. So we want to kind of do that a little bit later. So we were thinking about making like pins that people could put on their backpack, slip on their backpack, slip on their shirt, and just show that they're, out like, aware of the issue and there for other people if they ever need anything. There's also in the past been an event called Beat the Holiday Blues. So there's, we'll have like gift packages or something for people to like help them with that. And then I know a huge thing on campus is Eating Disorder Awareness Week. So we are definitely, I think we have like a table for every day of that week, which I know is a very prominent problem, especially amongst college students. So, but I think like that's like my club. I mean, that's me. I know, this semester in particular has definitely been a little crazier than it has in the past. I know as a junior, I've been looking out for the freshmen that I've been meeting from my team. And there's definitely been a little bit of an adjustment for them, but I also hope that through NAMI that I can get some other students to like feel more comfortable and like a part of something, because we are like a community and we kind of try to create like that friendship, that family together, that, and I send out emails every week. I'm like, if you ever need anything, like, I'm always here to talk. I'm really, I love to listen. Even if you don't want me to say anything, I'm always an open ear, but just to give someone some kind of support. But like Carrie said, like the school has great places and counseling services that students can go to. But I just think like nowadays, like the best thing we can do for each other is kind of like be there, support each other, and just listen and make, support one another as best as we can through everything that's going on. So with that, I'm open to any questions. It could be about the club. It could be about anything, about being a student at Quinnipiac, anything at all. But yeah, it's so great. Thank you for letting me talk and present to you all. And I hope that your students are enjoying it.
If anyone has any questions, they could put in the chat, or if they wanted to take their microphone off. Okay, I mean, I could talk a little bit more too. So if someone has, okay, there's a question. Do you do anything to extend your outreach into non-near normal extroverts?
So I know, I'm not sure if that is relating to the, to neuro. I'm not sure if I know what you mean.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. you're clearly an extrovert. And the outreach program is probably one of the most heartwarming moments of the weekend for me right now. And removing the stigma that this is as much of preventative self-care and overall wellness as anything else. But being positioned in a global multinational, being aware of the drastic cultural differences in what is accepted as being normal, and also being somewhat attenuated to the contributions that we societally have not taken advantage of beyond race and gender, but extending to what I'm going to refer to as non-neuronormal extroverts. You are a neuronormal extrovert. There are people on, not even on the spectrum yet, but that you might just see as quiet, that are going to walk by that door and long to be able to reach out. And that was the foundation of the question. Thank you.
Yes. So I think it's actually crazy because I feel like I've in general actually really branched out this year, and a little bit at the end of my sophomore year. I actually was a total introvert, believe it or not. My freshman year I was, and even throughout high school, I think college has helped me like kind of branch out. But so I kind of get that mindset as well, and I know that like I wouldn't, even if I like heard of a club, I'd be kind of scared to like go and like make myself present, just because I wouldn't know like if I cared a lot about, how they would view me or if I'd have to talk or anything. So I, as an extrovert now, especially with the clubs and everything, and not only that, or the events that we have on campus, I will try anyone, like especially I know this past event with the rock painting, anyone that walked by, I was like, hi, would you like to paint a rock? Like totally up to you, like positive affirmation or whatever. And then in the event with the body positivity, I was like, oh my gosh, you should totally write a post-it and put like, I reached out to everyone, and by that I tried to have at least a little bit of a conversation with them, no matter if they were an introvert or an extrovert. I try to include anyone in that way. And not only that, but with the events that we have, we have sent it out to like RAs, and that's like the first thing. So they sent it out to RAs so that they could tell like anyone to like join or anything. And then the club fair was also something where people would just like walk by, and I would try to grab people in, even if they weren't looking to like talk to me or whatever. I tried to be like this is totally informal, you can come whenever not. And like that's another great thing about coming on to Zoom, is I feel like you don't really have to talk, and you don't have to go anywhere. You could just show your face, and if you do get uncomfortable, it's very easy just to be like, okay, I'm leaving, like hit the leave button. But I think as every table I've been at, I do try to we just talk to anyone and everyone, and we try to include as many people as possible, get as many people involved, even if they don't want to talk to us, we just talk to them. But I don't know if that answered your question, but
I mean, I think I certainly can respect for sure. Shannon definitely presents as an extrovert, very energetic. I just love, it's just the day in a student doing a Zoom for Parents Weekend, hanging out outside. And I just do love that. But there are a lot of students that aren't as comfortable to possibly end a certain group. For a lot of the options to be available more hybrid, the virtual options, as well as in-house, in person on campus. So I think a lot of these activities that Shannon touched on and many that we offer at Quinnipiac can be sort of pivoted to a virtual. Someone could do some paint rocking in their own room and sort of just scatter them around their house, those kind of things. So it's also just trying to give some ideas. Really, I think we really find COVID, even prior and in future, is being connected to something, and whatever that something may be, a certain club, organization, a group.
Oh, I think we just lost Carrie. She may have a bad connection. She's coming back, but Shannon, I don't know if you want, oh, here comes Carrie.
Oh, I am so, can you hear me?
You're freezing a little bit, but we can hear you.
I apologize. This is the life of the world we're in right now. And I'm sorry about this. This is the one thing that you are anxious that this will not happen when you're presenting, but here we are. So I think is really trying to figure out what is that's something that your student might feel comfortable or interested in connecting. And there are just hundreds and hundreds, and I'm sure there's someone on one of the panels or one of the offerings this parent weekend to just learn about all of the clubs and organizations, because there's so many really cool things that a student can get involved in. And me having someone else that could help encourage them too, because it's not always easy. We absolutely recognize that it's not easy to just have students sort of get involved in something that's out of their comfort zone. And we're certainly happy to help. If we knew of a student that is struggling with figuring out what to connect with, we certainly can help kind of navigate that for them if they were open to that. And I think that's tough as parents, since we're speaking to mostly parents here, that's tough when you feel like your student, it may be on campus or working virtual, and they're struggling as to what is that interest that they have, what might be that connection to help them feel that they're enjoying things and balancing being a college student. Because I will say to students all of the time, you are a student, absolutely, that is most important, that is your job, but also it's really important to have a little fun, right? It's how do we balance, practice self-care, enjoy things, and get involved in something. And this world, I think, has, since March has really tested a lot of us. So we see, even initially, someone I think asked that question in the chat, what have we seen? I think initially when we came back, we have to follow the governor's rules. We have to, limit certain things, events, but then throughout the time, even the short time that we've all been back on campus, we've been able to increase some attendance. Some of these events that Shannon talked about. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. It was like everything virtual, and now we've been able to really show and demonstrate that we could do this. Like, we had hundreds and hundreds of pens, but we were disinfecting them, and we were, practicing safe recommendations by CDC guidelines and by all of our health department guidelines to really make it work. And it's just so amazing to walk around and see students smiling, walking on the quad, and enjoying some more of that connection. There's a question in the chat: how can parents be more supportive of their student over the holiday? That's a great question. Well, I know, Shannon, you talked about that event that's coming up, but I think just in general, for all of us, depending what we all are celebrating in our own families, is, there is a little bit of, obviously, a longer time. If they are living on campus, they're going to be going home sooner. And so they'll still continue to have the rest of the semester to work on remotely. But I think it's really encouraging, what type of interest do you have related to wellness? And that could be just, what do you like to do? When I talk about that wellness wheel, there's so many components of that. And I think it's that balance of parents where you don't want to like hover. If they did leave you and they live on campus, you don't want to sort of hover and ask them a million different questions, right? Because that can get very stressful and conflicts could occur. You're trying to allow that independence, but sort of, kind of having some open, questions of things that they might want to do or ideas that you might have. What kind of interests do they have? What things do they want to accomplish while they're home? I think it's good. The holidays are going to be different for a lot of us. Some of those traditions of gatherings, families might decide to make decisions that might not be sort of what they're used to. And those traditions, not following some of those traditions, can be stressful, and it could bring on, some feelings of uncertainty. So I think that are some things is really trying to communicate, but also allowing a balance of, not to sort of overly get involved. And your student best. And that's what's so difficult, because for me to just write a list might be helpful for my daughter or my son, but it might not work for Shannon, So it's trying to figure out what might be helpful. And I think you can ask them, what would be helpful? What kind of things can I do that's helpful? What could we do together? I'm sure you all have lots of projects to get done, but, having fun too. I think letting go some of the things that we all get sometimes a bit anxious and stressed out around the holidays. And I think since COVID and since our times have changed a bit, and they probably will be different for a while, is to sort of allow ourselves and to really give ourselves some permission to let some of those things go. Then are they really that important to get done? Is it really that important to clean the entire house that Saturday morning? Or can you go for a walk with your son or daughter and do some different things, or cook together? Some things that I think we don't always have all the time to do. Hopefully that helps, but I think I just wanted to kind of add about like counseling or any other support, that this does not mean for your student that you need to have to feel depressed or feel like incredibly anxious or like I can't sleep. It could be, I just want to go and talk to someone. And the beauty of the services that we offer is that you could just sort of check in, and that could be one time, that could be 4 times. It really depends on what you need. There doesn't have to be like this whole intense criteria. And I think about the stigma Shannon talked about, that is definitely something that we really try to educate the students about, is that just come and talk to someone that's not your friends, that's not your family, and to get sort of some opinion and some feedback. And some of the feedback that the students come to us for is how to navigate these things, like how to navigate this world, how to navigate possibly always having their own room at home, and now they have to share a room with a roommate or have a suite mate, and it may or may not be going the way that they thought, and just getting some sort of feedback. And I think it helps parents too take the pressure that they can't fix it all. I will say, as parents, some advice, I typically say this, and some of you might have heard me in the orientations, but it's important to not be the sole support for your student. It's important to be there for them for sure. But also we want to encourage them and empower your student to be able to utilize other resources or other supports. And that's sometimes hard for a parent to hear, right? Because it feels good to always be them texting you or asking you questions. And I'm not saying that can't happen, but I think we see that students really definitely will continue to sort of increase their independence and when they connect themselves with other things and getting involved and utilizing other resources. And no one would expect them to know everything. That's what's so the beauty of college experience, is that you're continuing to learn, not just in the classroom, but learning personally, and to put those things into action.
I'm just gonna kind of interject really fast. I know as parents, like I know from my mom's own experience too, that she always like wants to like check in on me, and like I know for coming to college, what Carrie was saying in terms of independence, like it is like a huge factor. And I know like that was probably like the first couple of weeks, everyone just gets used to that. Like it's like, oh, like my mom's not making dinner, I gotta go. Like I mean, now I'm cooking my own because I live off campus, but like a lot now I gotta go to the cafe. I gotta like schedule myself. Like it's a whole crazy thing. And I know one of the questions is be more supportive like over the holiday, and if there's any warning signs. I do think that over the holiday, I think Carrie also did say something about this, but like just making sure like you're not I know when I first came back, my mom was like all like oh, like how was it? All these questions. What are you doing today? Blah, blah, blah. And although that, of course, like you want to be with them, and that makes so much sense. But they also like there is that sense of independence that they have developed, and I think that is something that will like it will be a little hard at first to like, because it's like it's your baby or whatever. That's what my mom puts it. She's like, I want to like spend all this time with you, but I think also giving them that independence, but then also giving them things like, oh, like on Saturday, would you want to go? I don't even know what's open. I know every state is different at this point, but if you wanted to go somewhere and do a fun activity, and then that's something they can look forward to. I know for me, looking forward to something in like an event, or like going out to lunch Saturday with my mom and my dad or my sister or whatever. And that's something that's great. I do think some warning signs that I would look out for is if they come back and they are very to themselves, they aren't as open, independent, like that is a warning sign, because I know that means they must something in their head, they must be struggling with something going on. If they keep to themselves in their room all the time, I would just like maybe like open the door and be like, oh, would you want to do something? I think that's like something that they just need something to like look forward. I'm going to emphasize that so much. It's like something just to keep them busy. Because I know like we will have a larger gap, especially if we're home after Thanksgiving until the end of January. That is a large gap. And I don't know if like working is really up and for grabs, but finding something to look forward to, or like a sense of community again. Like, I just think like, for me, being a president of this club, that's given me like almost like a purpose of like, and that makes me feel like really good. And that's why like I'm trying to get people to join in on this club, or like to join any organization or club or something, because it gives them a sense of purpose and independence, which I think is huge. So if you just notice that like they just don't have like a groove going, I think that in itself is also like a warning sign. But yes.
Yeah, and I think I will just add too, in addition to the services, there's always 24 hours, 7 days a week. There's always an option for your student, as well as you, if you needed to call and you were concerned. If it was a medical question, the health center, when you call the health center number, there's a prompt that you can press a certain number, and then you'll be connected to someone to answer that particular question. And that's 24 hours, 7 days a week, as well as mental health, the same option. So I think it's, the luxury to have the ability to have options that are not necessarily that traditional walk in the office, walk in the building, and see someone. Sometimes students, some of that stigma is, I don't want to walk in the health center because someone might see that I might be there because I'm maybe think I'm depressed, or maybe they think I'm sick, so the options for, and this was happening prior to COVID too, the availability. So students have that option, but also certainly too, as parents, the frustration sometimes, I think when I talk to a lot of families, is that I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help my student. I'm worried they won't go see a counselor. You have all these great services, but how can I get them to come? And I think that we can't force, as parents, force them to come. But I think it's really important for us to know if there was ever a situation and you were worried about their safety, absolutely, we would need to be contacted. I mean, obviously, certainly if it was extreme safety, contacting 911, but the care team I talked about, and the ability to fill out a form if you wanted to share a concern about your student, certainly you could call me. Happy to help. And there's lots of different avenues and support available if you wanted to just get that information to us. And it might not be something that's emergent, but what we could do as the care team is to really take a look. Are there other things that might be, that your student might be struggling with? We're not that typical, if the mom or father calls, we're going to go knock on the door and say, hey, Shannon, your mom just called and she's worried about you, because the last thing we want is to embarrass them. So there's different creative ways that I think we can kind of figure out how we could best sort of navigate if you were concerned, because it's a terrible feeling as a parent to not know how to help your student and to be so far away. And with this, I know we have a lot of rules, which we need to have a lot of rules and policies to follow to have our community safe. And so not being able to come to campus just like today as a parents' weekend, these are the kind of things that we just need to continue to practice and encourage, so we continue to be able to practice these safe things in this world that we're in right now. So I hope some of this information was helpful. I think that the messages are really to try for you all to know that there are services available. There's professional services available. There's also, in counseling, we have different groups that are like Zoom groups, so they can connect on different topics. All that information is on our website. But also, I think many times just mental health can really feel less intense and less overwhelming when we're connecting to something of interest. There are lots of different options that students can get involved in. And even it just might be, we might know of another student that might have a similar struggle, and maybe figuring out how we could connect them, or how they could connect with their RA and attend some type of kind of event. I think they were doing, the paint rocking, but I saw on Instagram, some painting of pumpkins, carving of pumpkins, like there's all those sort of fun things that can be done that also may not be ever have been an interest for, but it could be just trying something new. We really try to encourage students, like, step out of that comfort zone, right? It's so easy to just sort of stay in what we're interested in, but really try something new. What's the worst that can happen? Worst that can happen, like for me today, I'm like, oh, I hope I don't freeze. Well, I froze. Hopefully you heard what I'm saying, but these are kind of things that are also reality in the world that we're managing. And to know that, it's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to have some sadness. It's okay to feel lonely. All of those emotions, I think it's how do we identify them and how do we manage them to a point where they're not getting too intense, and lots of wellness options and stepping out of that comfort zone and doing something of fun, and it might not be enjoyment right away, but trying to get involved might help the intensity of that emotion that could be challenging. So I think, I also encourage you as parents to really practice wellness, opportunities, because I think we're better as parents when we also take care of ourselves and we sort of check in ourselves and practice those self-care. It helps us really, I think, to be better communicators and more available for ourselves and our students. So if anyone wanted to add anything or share some of the what you practice for self-care, we would love to see that in the chat. I know this morning I went for a long walk with my dog, and it was great. It was sunny finally after 2 days of rain, so it sort of helped me kind of prepare as I'm thinking about what am I going to talk about today with Shannon. So thank you all for your attention, and I'm always available. If my phone number, my extension is our extensions are 582-3087, and you can find me on the website. But if I could be of help and anyone wanted to talk about a personal situation of their student, we're always willing to listen to. And I hope you all enjoy this weekend and do something fun.
Thank you so much for letting me talk to you all, and please, my name is Shannon Goria, so if any of your children or the students want to ever contact me, I'm always open. So